Hello and welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I am Aidan,
And I'm Jack.
and we are here to recap the Cannons' first win of the season, getting a 13-9 victory over the Maryland Whipsnakes down in Charlotte. Felt really, really good to see them on the right side of the scoreboard.
It really did. I was nervous there, especially being down at the half. I was just, oh, like, dang, the
I know.
Cannons really gonna are we gonna revert back to the original PLL Cannons of those first couple years? Just had a real sort of bummer moment, and then second half they just flipped the switch, turned it on.
Yeah.
And boy, the vibes increased greatly. I feel so much better going
Yeah.
into Philly at 1-1 versus 0-2.
Yeah, that difference is huge, especially because the Cannons and Whipsnakes will both be playing the Water Dogs. Cannons are the first game, and the
Saturday.
second day is against the Whips. So obviously, the Water Dogs Cannons rivalry does not need any more hyping up. We will be doing that a little later in the week. Um, but for this win, like yeah, to get to 1-1, actually second in the East now because Philly's 0-1, Maryland's 0-2.
That's
Uh,
right. Yeah, I think they're fourth overall now.
yeah,
So
they'd make the champ series again.
hey, make the champ series. That's we're we're right back in business, baby. The,
Absolutely.
going into this weekend, technically they're in last place.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Technically,
Absolutely. What a difference a week makes.
in this league, I mean, obviously, yeah, two games, like you're obviously going to see dramatic shifts like that. So you can't really read into too much after one game, and you still can't read too much into it after two games. But it still just shows when you only have eight teams in a league, the differences in wins and losses, making the playoffs, not making the playoffs, making champ series, not making champ series are just so minuscule when the competition is this high.
Yeah. We saw across the board some pretty incredible games. We'll touch on that a little bit at the end, but
Oh, yeah.
um, back to the Cannons and their turnaround from where they looked kind of uh, just not things weren't clicking week one against the Atlas. And I think where things started to click for them this week was right off the opening faceoff. I believe Tucci won it. He finished 11 for 24 on the day. 44.
Solid.
Yeah, which he did honestly more than I thought or expected him to do. Now, a couple of those were violations against Nardella, maybe still getting back into the PLL timing, but like he won close to 50%. And the Cannons have a good enough offense that they can capitalize on that, much like the Atlas did last
Hmm.
week. And he kept the Whipsnakes honest, made them put an LSM and a short sig D midi on every face-off, uh,
Hmm.
meaning the Whips didn't have as much time to get into their offense. And we can also talk about the Whips not scoring for 22 minutes towards the end of the second half or end of the first half and most of the second.
And most of the second. Yeah.
Obviously, you hold a team without a goal for 22 minutes, you're probably going to win. But the just from the get up, Tucci, like going against, I think we'd all say a top two or three face-off guy in the PLL, um, more than holding his own, at least over the past couple seasons. I mean, I
Hmm.
think he won MVP in 2020. Nardella, that is. Yeah,
No, Zed.
oh, that's right. It was Zed, but Nardella was in the conversation.
Right.
Um, yeah, for face-off guy to win, that was the Gregor Renlian year. That will never.
Oh my
Not
goodness.
sure that'll
The
ever happen.
beast.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I certainly expect 2G to be back in the lineup um, next week. Although
Although
maybe
the water dogs
right.
also usually go with the prevent. I did not. Oh wait, they didn't even that this was their bye week.
Yeah,
So
they
you
didn't
have
play.
no idea what they're gonna do because they don't even have a Fogo on the roster. I know that Tierney was talking about bringing Stathakis back whenever he's wrapped up with his degree program, but I don't know if that's now or not. And
Right.
I feel like it's going to be a really interesting chess match when they release the 19-man rosters because you're trying to guess what they'll do, what your opponent's going to dude, because the Cannons obviously had some success with the face-off this week. So do they ride that, or do they
Yeah,
go back to their typical prevent? And the Water Dogs, like, are they going to try facing off now since they had such a struggle with the?
I
I don't
know.
know. We should save this for the talk with Philly
Yeah, we will,
later this
but
week. Though let's get back to Maryland maybe.
yeah, I certainly Tucci like played himself into a role. Like he did everything you could reasonably expect him to do to stay in the lineup.
Yeah,
And the Water Dogs is a weird situation, but after this performance, like if he keeps it up, he's got to be in the lineup week to week, I think.
agreed. I agree. I
Yeah.
like him. I like him.
Um, and then the other big switch for this week to last or last week to this is the Cannons offense being, I mean, they had the ball so much more that it was a lot easier to put up more goals. But
You
they,
can't score if you don't have the ball.
yeah, I
They
think,
did not have the ball very often last week. So
yeah,
this week, you're probably going to put in some more goals, and that's actually they only scored one more goal than they
yeah,
did
but their
last week,
opponent
but
didn't have the time to score because they
time
didn't
to
have the
score a
ball.
ton.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the
Um,
defense. Yeah. What did you think about them holding the whips off the board for 20 minutes? How do you think they were able to do that? What was your take?
I think the Whips are still looking to figure out everyone's role in their offense. Obviously,
Mm,
Zed and Rambo are going to do their things. And Rambo was the Whips' leading scorer. He had 2 goals and assist. But that's not a bad, like to hold Rambo to that is not too bad.
hmm
Especially, given that no one else really beat them. I think Zed had um 1 or 2 points. But beside those two guys, like and TJ Malone obviously is going to be a fantastic player in this league. They just don't maybe necessarily have the complementary pieces or the pieces aren't exactly meshing. Like
Right.
Chanachuk, he had a couple 2 attempts. They didn't quite land. Ledman, I think it is like a fringe PLL player. I'm not sure that he's the type of guy who will be in the starting lineup every week. If you have a fully healthy roster, because they also like they're missing Brad Smith, who it seems like is just always missing, and Tucker Dordevic, who was the rookie of the year last
Yeah.
year. So I think that just makes the Cannons' job a lot easier, and I still have so much
Sure.
confidence in their short stick D middies, and obviously
hmm
between Ethan Rawl and Craig Chick, who also stepped up. I checked earlier today; he did not play at all last year, so for him to come in and do
Right.
a pretty bang up job on admittedly not the strongest midfield group in the league, but these guys are all the best in the world. Um,
Yeah. Top
and
whatever it
then
is, 200 players for
yeah,
sure. Even less than that, 150, I think. Something somewhere
yeah,
in that
somewhere
range.
between those two. And then the other, the final element of the defense is Connor Kirst, or sorry, Colin Kirst.
I
Uh,
mean, both Kirsts,
yeah,
but
both Kirst,
right
but
now, Colin.
specifically Colin, really returning to form. He finished around 60%.
Yep.
Obviously, that incredible save pretty early on in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Like
The
sitting
double
down,
save.
throws his stick
Yeah.
up.
Just
Um,
nuts. I mean,
yeah,
it it's easier to be on your game when you're not seeing what did he see like 40 shots
50
last
something,
week?
30 something on goal, but the Atlas had more than 50. And let me look at,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when you're like in terms of actually feeling the rubber, like it, it, yeah, he was 40 some save percentage against Atlas, but that's just so many shots, and then it gets in your head when you let in a few, so
yeah.
it decreases. So some that you should stop, you don't, and you mentioned it off air, and it would have been cool if that double save was at a more pivotal moment in the game. But I'd argue that the fact that it was so early on made it pivotal because it showed that he was locked in, and that definitely gave both him and the entire team a real confidence boost. Like, oh, Kirsty's got it tonight. Like
Yeah.
he's on it, and I think that just allows the whole team to play more freely, knowing that we got a good guy back there tonight who's seeing the ball well, and it just helps open up everything else.
Yeah, I remember in week one thinking like there were so many moments last year where a guy would get a good shot, but Curse would just deny him. And that didn't really happen week one. Now he was kind of hung out to dry against the Atlas, like that
Yeah.
incredible ball movement and passing. But the defense did a much better job of limiting the shots that he was going to get. Like he didn't get a lot of dunks or like wide open guys until those couple garbage time goals. Um, and like the twos he denied, he just was really confident. Like you said, seeing the
Hmm.
ball well. He saw it, he was able to stop it, which is that's all you got to do. And then he had a few good outlets in transition as well. I don't
Mm.
think two goalies, I believe, wound up with an assist this weekend. He was not one of them, but um, still a fantastic outing and one that gives me a lot of confidence going forward that if he and Tucci play at that level, um, and then if the offense plays at this level, which maybe we'll switch to the offensive side of the field now for the Cannons,
Yeah.
that I feel
Asher
so much better.
Asher was
Yeah.
Asher was seeing it. Yeah, how I think he had 6 assists.
Yeah. It was one goal,
It
six
just
assists.
it just he's such a good quarterback.
Yeah.
His vision is incredible. I mean, thanks, Mr. Knowlton for not being able to catch the ball, I
Yeah.
guess. Really helping your son with some precision passing because
Yeah.
he is just so good playing X attack, being able to see the whole field, and then I mean he's a big boy too. He didn't obviously only the one goal, but he can definitely get to the rack when he wants to. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I was really impressed with just the way that he was spreading the ball around too, because it wasn't like a Asher and I mean the Asher Holman combo obviously is awesome, and I think at least two of Asher's assists went to Holman, but it wasn't like, oh, it's just a two-man game between Asher and Holman. Like he was spreading the ball around to the entire offense, which just makes the Whip Snakes have to pay attention to everyone, which
Right.
obviously makes it easier for the Cannons to let have a guy slip free and put one in the net. Like we got both Rooks getting
Yeah.
their first goals, or I shouldn't say both Rooks. Well, actually, both the two offensive draftees
Yeah.
that we had this year getting their first goals. Pat actually grabbing two, I believe.
Yep.
Um,
I think both
but
assisted by Asher. I
I
know.
believe though
Yeah. Verdaro's was for sure.
Was Verdar? Yeah, because he came in. That's
Yeah.
right. And
Um,
Asher's definitely was assisted on Pat's first. I can't remember. The
yeah.
second one was the bouncer that Pat just picked up and stuck in. So I don't recall who got the assist or even if there technically was an assist given out, given that it was more of a rebound. But yeah,
Yeah.
it the offense was clicking. Holman was feeling it. Definitely juiced up a bit by the crowd. I think
Yeah.
it looked like the Holman contingent was definitely out in full force. I don't know who exactly, but just the one guy pouring the beer into the other guy's mouth and going after one goal. I was like, oh, like the boys are on it. And then Alex Oss doing like the LeBron, like
Yeah.
I was like, oh boy, like the vibes there are so high. And honestly, what that was making me think of, I know we're taking this way off game talk, but just having that contingent at Harvard plus Jeffrey Trainer,
Yep.
Ricket kid, he had the massive crowd at Gillette last year. You bring the Holman contingent, you bring the Trainer contingent, smush them in with the battery. I think that the crowd in Boston is going to be so electric,
Oh
and
yeah.
I cannot wait for it.
Yeah. That's a little less than a month away. So if you haven't gotten your
Hmm.
tickets yet, please do. We'll be in section 33. It's the battery section, supporter section. Yeah,
Oh,
I was very pleasantly surprised by the large number of Cannons fans there. I'd say that was the
yeah.
home group. Marcus's wife and friends, and then I'm sure his other family, because he and his dad both being there. I'm sure all their other their
Mhm.
siblings, Brian's wife, etc. Because he was
Yeah.
the coach at UNC for a number of years.
Exactly. So they have a lot of connections down the area, and even like the hometown. I mean, they're still live in Maryland, so that's not it's not that far a trip for them to get down to Charlotte.
Exactly.
Um, but anyways, speaking of
Yeah.
Maryland, let's return to the conversation of the game that we played against Maryland.
Yeah. Um, I think we covered a lot of the important points, like just a great turnaround on all levels. Cannons had the ball more. And we also got to give credits to the Kavanaughs and Holman for riding. They got
Mm,
like 4 or 5 extra possessions from how
hmm.
competitive they were, either forcing a bad decision or straight up getting a takeaway, like knocking the ball out of a guy's stick.
Yep.
Um, which we saw that clip from training camp of Coach Holman talking about the Kavanaugh riding school.
The
Um,
Holman and Kavanaugh Riding School.
yeah.
That's right. I love
And
that.
yeah, the grit and never quit in that Kavanaugh family is so
Ooh.
much fun to watch as a sports fan. Uh,
Did you just come up with that? I
yeah,
haven't
just
heard
stuff like,
that. Grit and never quit. Can we get that on a t-shirt?
oh,
PLL?
I think we might.
Can, can
Yeah.
we get that? Shout out Libby, someone PLL merch. Can we do that? Cannons? Oh my gosh. What or just literally like one of those like like the blue collar uh like family business shirts, and it should be
Mm.
like create a logo for like the Holman and Kavanaugh riding school, and then on the back it can just have the quote grit and never quit, and that's the company's slogan.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's definitely mock that up for sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay,
All right, so
we're
look for
done.
that coming down the pipeline probably in the
Yeah,
off season.
definitely.
Um and I did, it's a very minor note, but 2G in the lineup wearing number 4. So I think that that does really close turn another
Sure.
page on the Lyle Thompson saga. Probably no plans to come back
Anytime
in the
soon.
near future.
Yeah.
Although if he does, I'm sure Zach Tucci would be glad to give up that number for him.
I think they could probably arrange something, but
Yeah, does
yeah.
make it seem like if there's a plan or a thought, maybe he picks a different number. Um, but again, I don't really mind that. I think
No,
slotting Lyle into this offense would be pretty tough. Um,
it's already tough slotting Pat
yeah,
Cavan.
and Verdaro.
Obviously worked well, but just there's so much offensive talent. We said it in the offseason. I love Lyle. He's a phenomenal player, one of the best players in the world. And if he wants to come back, you find a way to fit him in, just like people argued that Schellenberger might be a better fit for the
Mm,
Outlaws. But when you have Brennan O'Neill, you find a way to make
yeah,
that work. If Lyle said, "Hey, I want to play outside again," you're gonna find a way to make it work. But obviously, you have to make it work. So if we don't have to make it work, I'm okay with the product as is if what we saw yesterday is the product as is.
exactly. And what we saw all last season.
Right,
Hopefully just getting better, with the additions of Kavanaugh and Verdaro,
right.
who certainly like I think I really don't blame Kavanaugh for not Pat Kavanaugh that is for just that one assist in his first game because he like the insane week that he had leading up to
Oh,
that really did not
like
give him any practice
n
time.
one like walk through practice
Yeah.
essentially.
And I'm sure some Zoom calls and stuff before he got there, but still. This
Still,
is, I think, much more representative of what we're going to see. I actually did take him in fantasy this week, and he did overperform his expectations with that 2 goals and an assist. So very proud about that.
there we go.
Um, yeah, not as much as we maybe turn to the other games this weekend. Brennan O'Neill overperformed.
Yes.
The over under
Oh,
on his point totals on FanDuel was 3.5. I took the under and
hmm.
he finished with 9 points, which
Yeah, I just want to say I said this to you, and I'm just want this on the record now. I think Brendan O'Neill is going to be good at lacrosse.
yeah, that does. It's a hot take, but
I
that prediction is,
He's going to be good.
yeah. Yeah.
Come at me.
So those 9 points, most of which came in the fourth quarter, in which the Outlaws scored 10. They were down by 7 in the fourth
Oh.
quarter, outscored the Archers 10-3, and then obviously Brennan O'Neill scores the overtime winner. Uh, just like could not believe that I was
off
watching. Like,
off an assist from Cross Ferreira, which
yeah,
shout out to him. Last time that the Chrome slash Outlaws won a game, Cross Ferreira had the ball in his stick, and Ryan Boyle, huh, I don't think you want Cross Ferreira with the ball right now. Runs across, boom, buzzer beater, nuts.
yeah,
And now Cross gets the ball on his stick again. So this time
makes the
dishes
right
it
choice.
off
Yeah,
to Brennan. Dude,
I know.
that's nuts. That game was nuts. I did not have the chance to watch it live, but I was just checking the score and the numbers kept going up and up and up, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this seems like, you know, pardon the
Yeah,
pun because it's Carolina weekend, but absolute chaos." Which maybe
I know.
saying the word chaos, should we transition to their two games, or do you have anything else you wanted to talk about with Outlaws
No, I
Outkick?
just I just wanted to say I think 10 goals in a quarter is the most I've ever seen. Um,
It's certainly a lot.
yeah.
It's not a small number,
No, it's most of their goals actually. And now, yeah, let's
quite
switch to
literally.
what was actually the first goal or first game of the day. Was the Redwoods' first game of the year versus the Chaos.
First
Um,
homecoming game for the
yep,
Chaos.
absolutely. And so that was a one goal affair. I think this I get space, like the size and shape of the lot you're building on is a factor, but I will never understand stadiums that are built running east to west because I think the sun was a huge factor in this game. And
Hmm.
the winning goal, what wound up being the winning goal, was basically scored because it like kind of bounced awkwardly in right in front of the sun, and Jack Kelly just I don't think could see it in time. Um, I'm honestly surprised that more kind of soft goals weren't given up that way. Um, and then the other controversy is the Woods had the ball with about 45 seconds to go, I think. Um, Came in, took a shot, like crease dive, very clearly hit the top of the goalie's helmet. Should have been a shot clock reset. It was not. Pennell spent a couple seconds arguing with the ref, which obviously wasted a little bit more clock. Nat St. Laurent didn't have a timeout, so we couldn't challenge. The officials elected not to review it to determine if it was a reset. And they wound up not scoring, and Carolina held on for the win. Um, I don't have a ton of analysis on that, just that, they missed the call. I think, especially given that the ball bounced off the guy's head and then went on a bounce, you could have taken a second to look. No team was getting a particular advantage or disadvantage off of that. Um,
Hmm.
but that does, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Chaos win, Redwoods lose, at least only by one. Um, yeah, and no Chris Gray in that game. He had some other commitment. Um, maybe
Yeah, I saw that he wasn't on the roster, but I didn't hear anything more about that. I didn't hear an injury
no, it
report
was
either.
something
What
personal.
was it?
The speculation is, he started he did start a finance job in New York that maybe he just can't leave early enough on a Friday to get there. Uh,
Ooh,
which is a real bummer. It could be something
we
else.
gotta pay these guys more money, man.
Yeah. Well, and it'll take quite a while to get them to New York finance guy money, but I agree.
I
Uh,
know, just
yeah,
can't
yeah,
leave work early enough like that. That really just screams beer league, man. That's
yeah.
just such a bummer.
That is just speculation, but that's what Dan Arestia was quoted as saying, or that was his hypothesis.
If that's coming from Dan, I trust it.
Yeah. Um, Hopefully he's back next week. I don't. Let me check when the Redwoods next game is. Hopefully it is a weekend.
Well, it's a Saturday, Sunday
Saturday, Sunday.
next week,
Okay. And
so
it's in
he'll
Philly,
be
which is
fine.
certainly closer to New York.
Then Carolina, yeah, so he'll be fine regardless.
Yeah. So that yeah, that was a bummer not to see him. He's probably good for a goal there. Maybe that makes a difference.
Yep.
Uh, And then final game is the Chaos again versus the Atlas. And I kind of
New York is
felt,
so good.
I know,
I don't like it.
I
I don't
know.
like it.
They like,
Especially, I've never liked Atlas from the start because it felt like Paul just stacked that team. And now that they're officially the New York team, obviously I have to dislike them. It's just even though it's technically Albany, it's not New York City, but still
yeah,
you are the team of the state of New York, which includes New York City. So I have to hate the Atlas. I love you, Scott, but I have to hate
yeah,
the Atlas. So the fact that they are so good is really not fun for me.
no,
I did not enjoy obviously watching them beat us last week. Did not enjoy watching them beat the Whipsnakes last week, and I did not enjoy watching them beat the Chaos last week as well. First homecoming loss
yep.
was
Which,
that game.
yeah, I think going forward, I'm gonna probably mark down the second homecoming game as like an automatic loss for most teams. I mean, the Atlas barely held on
Depending
to
on the
one,
matchup. Yeah.
and but they got spotted a 10-1 lead. The Chaos, I mean, the Chaos really fought back. But I think, well, especially the Atlas, but it's just really tough to play on less than a day's rest when the other team is
Yep.
coming in fresh. That really, really hurts me
Not
because
only coming in fresh, but they literally just played the day before. So it's not even like, oh, you watch film on them in the week leading up. Like you
yeah,
just sat at the stadium and watched them play a full game and know exactly what their line and because they're not changing their roster. So you know exactly what they came out with and how they looked. So it makes the scouting that much
yeah,
easier for the next day because you know exactly what they just did and who they'll have and what they'll do. And you'll probably be able to say, oh, they did this well, we'll have to stop it. Or oh, they didn't do that well, we can exploit that. Or even, the whole chess pieces, well, they didn't do this well. So maybe they'll try to correct it that way. So let's do something to counteract what they're probably going to correct. Like
yeah,
a lot of mental intrigue in the whole double session thing.
yeah. But I think huge advantage to the team not playing second. It really hurts me because the Water Dogs are the Cannons' second game of their homecoming weekend. Um, yeah, so hopefully they kick the crap out of him this weekend. Hopefully Stathis isn't back. They kick the crap out of him again, but I think they would need something like that to
Yeah.
um come out with two wins in that, unfortunately. Um, but again, the fact that it wound up being a 3-goal game, it's 15-12 Atlas, I think does show a lot to the Chaos about
Yep.
their strength. Like Hergovik didn't score at all last year. He's got, I think, 4 goals. He had two um in their in their second game. I believe he had a 2-pointer and a one. So glad to see him coming back. Jules, I think being back at attack
Mhm.
looks so much better, just more comfortable. Um, like Ross Scott, unbelievable, so fast, so shifty.
Yep.
Minik's basically the same thing. In the midfield, I think he and Scott will switch off midfield and attack. Um,
Also, I'm sorry, I'm totally changing the subject, but last week everyone was talking about the Cavs getting a
yeah,
little chippy, but who's the team that has
mm,
now gotten in a fight 2 weeks in a row?
very good point. Very good point.
Maybe it's not the Cavs.
Yeah, maybe it's Danny Logan's fault. I know he was right at the center of that scrum at the end of the first
Yeah.
half.
So
Yeah, I don't. That's
that was that kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, when I saw that pop up, I was like, whoa, like
yeah, it
what's
really
going on
did.
here?
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out. They're playing the Redwoods this weekend. We'll see if any
Any
fisticuffs
fireworks? Yeah.
emerge. Yeah. Now I kind
Yeah.
of do. I want like Boston. I think is getting a little bit of a chippy reputation, but if the Atlas get into a scrum 3 weeks in a row, I think that might help shift some of that conversation over to New York.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But
Not that I mind the chippiness. It is,
no, I love
especially as a
it.
neutral observer, like when it was the
It's
Atlas.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And it gets that gets shared. That gets sent around
Oh
on
yeah,
Twitter. People talk about that. That clip will go around and helps get lacrosse in front of more eyeball. That's what they say. Any press is good press. So
absolutely, yeah,
yeah, we'll take it.
for
But
sure. Um, all right, I think
any
just about
final
covered the whole.
thoughts?
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
pretty much got it all covered. So we will be back on Thursday, most likely with a representative of the Canine Crew, Philly supporter group. Um, and we will be talking about the Cannons' upcoming matchup. We'll see what the roster decisions are there. Some very interesting
Yeah.
choices to be sure.
Yep.
Um, and then we will yeah, we'll have our
Talk to
typical
you then.
watch party, West End Johnny's. We'll promote that
12:30.
again, the 15th. Yep, 12:30 start for the game, so bright and early. But plenty of time to meander about our beautiful city of Boston afterwards. So we certainly hope to see you all there. We will remind you again on Thursday. Um, I think that is all. All right, go Cannons.
Yeah. Go Cannons. Boom.
Boom.